The purpose paradox, the complex web of beliefs, values, and depression in a purpose-driven culture. As someone interested in existential ideas on what is purpose and meaning, I find myself swimming in a cosmic ocean of information on what should be purpose, what should be meaningful in life. You might be asking yourself, well, Dev, what is your purpose in life? What is meaningful to you? And to that I say, to consistently aim high, realizing I understand nothing, remaining humble in the face of that which I consider to be high, in which I believe my purpose will follow, my life's meaning will follow. I'm sure the next question is, well, what does that mean? And to that I reply, I don't know. Situated within this question is a personal belief, a personal value, and these are usually hierarchically structured and sometimes difficult to put into words for some people. Now, within the broader macrosphere of society, each one of our cultures are based on beliefs and values. Beliefs and values are elements that construct a culture. A culture conducts a society of and towards a purpose. Our social norms are based on beliefs and values. Our social roles are based on beliefs and values. And even our social institutions are constructed from beliefs and values. So we see an overall interconnected web of social science axioms or principles coming together, all with a purpose. And strangely or not strangely enough, social norms, social roles, and social institutions can reconstruct our beliefs and values. And this complex web also shows how purpose and life can be altered multidirectionally via all the shown principles, even beliefs and values. Each area can reconstruct life as we perceive it to be. This is essential to understanding my research investigation. And further along in this presentation, understanding my research question. The broader issue, cultural factors affecting rates of depression, has become the narrower issue of what a culture considers to be a life of purpose. If we then consider the individual within a culture, individual beliefs and values influence what they consider to be a life of purpose. Though this is interconnected with how the individual perceives the culture's beliefs and values, and what the culture states is a life of purpose. The individual being a part of the broader culture can change the beliefs and values, and the culture can change the individual's beliefs and values. Now, why am I focusing more on beliefs and values than on the other principles stated before? Well, inside our beliefs and values lies what we individually consider to be a life of purpose, or where we individually find meaning in life. Now we come to a deeper topic. What if someone tells you they do not feel they have a purpose, that life is meaningless, and there is no purpose to anything? You may or may not be surprised to know we are facing a pandemic of depression and an epidemic of depression, drug addiction, self-harm, and suicide in the United States. And one of the most disturbing aspects to the equation is that it appears to be specifically affecting adolescents and young adults the most. And according to my research, I do not believe it has anything to do with a lack of purpose or a lack of meaning itself, but instead I believe it has everything to do with a change in cultural definitions of beliefs and values, thus a change in what is of purpose to the individual. Here are some sobering statistics. Major depressive episodes in adolescents ages 12 to 17 increased from 8.7% in 2005 to 11.3% in 2014. And major depressive episodes in young adults increased from 8.8% to 9.6% in that same time period, as seen in this figure. In a similar study, major depressive episodes were observed as increasing even further using cohort trends. The study led to interesting results in the increased prevalence of major depressive episodes between generations, such as Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, and Boomers. A major depressive episode is debilitating. This is not the feeling of melancholy for a single day. One of the most profound descriptions of a major depressive episode I have ever heard comes from Stanford's Robert Sapolsky. He says, "If I had to define a major depression in a single sentence, I would describe it as a genetic neurochemical disorder requiring a strong environmental trigger whose characteristic manifestation is an inability to appreciate sunsets." Now that is an extremely thought-provoking and emotion-evoking description. The inability to appreciate a sunset, the inability to see beauty or experience awe, the inability to feel pleasure, anhedonia. What is fascinating about depression is that one of the main symptoms appears to be this feeling of a lack of purpose. Now you may be asking yourself, does a person become depressed and then feel a lack of purpose? Or does this feeling of a lack of purpose come and then the person becomes depressed, as we would diagnose formally? We have a chicken or the egg scenario. Which came first? There's no conclusive evidence to say, but in my research, I found an interesting study. The study used in-depth interviews of individuals who screened positive for depression while seeking primary care services for medical conditions. Descriptions of patients' experiences were analyzed via phenomenological, psychological methods. Participants were dealing with profound ruptures as to what they were living for. Their dreams for work, relationships, and a meaningful life. This declining sense of purpose was accompanied by parallel experiences of constrictions in energy, action, and body, but the participants' focus remained on the threatened goals and values in question, and less on their personal or bodily experiences. They did not explain their situation as indicative of having a depressive illness. So what does this study suggest to me? Psychosomatically, via the mind, we begin to produce physical depressive symptoms, such as a decline in energy, cognitive functioning, and what some would call psychomotor retardation. By simply playing into our own sense of declining meaning being dependent upon our beliefs and values. Depression itself is so complex that we must come to a narrower, more specific question. My main question, after having gone through my research, is the following. What values and beliefs are changing in our culture that are causing this feeling of a lack of purpose, specifically in adolescents and young adults today? Some of you, I imagine, have children of your own or work with children, adolescents, that are experiencing the same lack of purpose I have been describing or have been displaying symptoms of a major depression. Some of you might be wondering, much like myself, where does this take our future generations? 20% of individuals who experience a major depression experience the disorder chronically throughout their life. Whether scientists conclude that a lack of purpose leads to depression or depression leads to a lack of purpose at this point is an arbitrary part of my research. The leading causes of disability worldwide could be considered as a complex web of mood disorders, and the hard truth is, scientists have no idea what to make of it. So why care? Why care that in the United States in 2017, suicide was the second leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 10 to 34? Why care? Drug overdose deaths, over 70,000 people in 2019 alone. We are in a crisis of purposelessness. We are in a crisis of questioning, is my life valuable? Is there a purpose to my life? And when you include adolescents and young adults into that equation, nothing but more uniquely disturbing questions come into my mind. Understanding that beliefs and values are playing a role in this situation, and considering that other principles, such as social institutions, can shape our beliefs and values. And why is this issue of purpose in life important to myself? Well, many of the statistics and much of the research it took me to come to this complex issue of depression and purpose in life have affected me personally. When I was 14 years old, I began to abuse drugs and alcohol. And when I was 16, I was formally diagnosed with depression. All while this was occurring, I was caught in an existential crisis. What was the point? What does this all mean? I had no idea how to cope with these feelings, and drugs were the perfect band-aids to my wounds. I also watched as many of my friends died from drug overdoses, and more recently, one of my best childhood friends committed suicide at the age of 27. I have seen families torn apart from this issue, parents losing their children, children losing their parents, all because of this complex web of depression and a lack in the belief that life is purposeful and that life can have value if you allow it to. This leads me back to the same question considering my research investigation. What values and beliefs are changing in our culture that are causing this feeling of a lack of purpose, specifically in adolescents and young adults today? The investigation into my question by future scientists, I believe, could come to even more disturbing questions. Are current social institutions changing these beliefs and values in adolescents and young adults? How? Are current social norms changing these beliefs and values in adolescents and young adults? How? Are social roles changing these beliefs and values in adolescents and young adults? How? Where are the connections, if any? That is where I believe all scientists must journey fearlessly into the unknown, keeping in mind that the future of childhood development, adolescent development, young adult development rests upon these questions. There's much work to be done, and I hope you walk away today understanding that there is hope. There is a purpose, and I ask you to look first inward with brutal honesty before daring to venture outwards with brutal honesty. I would like to end with a quote from the great Carl Gustav Jung. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Thank you.